Back here on HQ Spotlight, the playoff picture. I say this with pause, slowly starting to come together. A lot can change down the stretch, but here's where things stand right now in the NFC. So if the season were to end today, three NFC West teams would make it into the playoffs. We have the Seahawks leading the division, at 6-2. And then we have the Rams and the Niners in the wild card hunt there, actually wild card teams. Cardinals, they are in the hunt, different situation. And the Rams and the Niners going head-to-head on Sunday, 4:25 Eastern Time. Remember last season, San Francisco beat the Rams on the road in overtime in Week 5. So it brought us fireworks, and we're hoping as football fans for more of the same this go-around. So let's welcome in Tyler Sullivan and JP Acosta. Rams, Niners, they're both fighting to get to the top of the division and just in the playoff race in general. So, JP, kind of break down what's at stake for both teams in this matchup that we have on deck for this week.
Well, I'm going to start with the Rams. And for this team, if they win this game, it feels like they're establishing themselves as a serious contender in the NFC. They've had a lot of issues when it comes to aligning their coverage with their front four. But if they're able to beat Kyle Shanahan in his own game and have Matthew Stafford playing at a high level still, I think it's going to send a message to the NFC that they are still one of the teams to beat in that conference because they have the quarterback playing at an MVP caliber level and they have a pass rush that can take over games. Now, on the other side of the ball for the 49ers, you win this game, you already sweep the division series against the Rams. You already have a win against the Cardinals. You have a win against the Seahawks. And somehow you are still in the race to win the division despite not having anybody healthy. So I think for them, if they get a win here on Sunday, it's going to mean a lot to just keeping a stranglehold not only on those final 3 wild card spots, but also making sure they have a chance to actually win this division.
JP hit the nail on the head right there when he talked about the fact that we're talking about tiebreakers in this wildly tight NFC West. The fact that this is a game now where San Francisco can go 4-0 in the NFC West despite all of those injuries, that is going to prove massive. And when we're talking about teams that all have 6 wins and are basically a game out from one another in the loss column, and especially for the Los Angeles Rams here. To me, this is as much of a must-win game as you could probably find in Week 10 because of that, because you don't want to go down in the head-to-head tiebreaker to San Francisco because at some point they're going to get somewhat closer to healthy. I don't want to say fully healthy, but they're going to get closer to healthy than they have been throughout portions of this season. And if all of a sudden you have put yourself in a hole where you're now down 0-2 to the San Francisco 49ers, you're already down a game in that conference as well, that can escape from you very quickly in terms of, yeah, sure, you might have a good record, but your in-division record, which is the second head-to-head tiebreaker when we kind of figure out these playoff division seedings, that's where this could come into play here. So huge game for San Francisco, but even more so for Los Angeles because they're making up ground in that head-to-head tiebreaker.
I know you both kind of touched on the injuries there for the Niners, but it is remarkable, and I want to double down on that conversation because somehow, some way, without Brock Purdy, without Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, Brandon Ayuk, and that's not even the full extent of it, the Niners are still in the playoff race as we just saw at the top of this segment. And Tyler, I know you kind of mentioned they're going to get healthier as time goes on, hopefully fingers crossed for them, but how sustainable is what they are doing when you look at the competitiveness of their division alone?
Yeah, I don't know if it's sustainable to the sense that they can still have all of these injuries and somehow ascend to the first place in the NFC West. Maybe the schedule help dictates that a little bit. But if we're talking about looking at San Francisco as a serious player, you need to get Brock Purdy back. You need to get some of these guys healthy. Obviously, you're going to be down Fred Warner, Nick Bosa for the rest of the season, so that it does really limit your ceiling defensively. But I just want to stop and really credit Kyle Shanahan right now, because this is a guy that's never won Coach of the Year before in his coaching tenure, even though he has had one of the best rosters in the NFL over his tenure. What he's able to do, and yes, the schedule has been easy, but you look at what they've lost this season. I referenced Fred Warner. I referenced a guy like Nick Bosa, but Brock Purdy, their starting quarterback, George Kittle, maybe the heart and soul of their offense, has been out. The wide receiver room has been in shambles, and somehow we're talking about them in first place, possibly getting into the playoffs despite all of that. So the fact that he hasn't gotten the Coach of the Year love, even though he has his team in this type of position to go against a Los Angeles Rams team and maybe create a huge cushion for them to secure a wild card spot, if not higher, it is one of the better coaching performances we've seen this season.
Tyler hit it on the head there. I think this has been a masterful coaching performance by Kyle Shanahan and a masterful performance this season from Christian McCaffrey. He's first in the NFL in carries, and he's also third in the NFL among all skill position players in targets. He is single-handedly, I know we say like carrying a lot when it comes to NFL teams and NFL players when we discuss them, but Christian McCaffrey is carrying this offense and sort of carrying this team with his efficiency. And where I think Kyle Shanahan has really helped Mac Jones is Mac Jones has the third quickest time to throw in the NFL. When that ball hits his back foot, the ball is out. And I think that's a credit to Kyle Shanahan and how he's designing this offense. It has been one of his best years as a coach and as a play designer to maximize this offense around what Mac Jones can do well. And then I think you're getting some really good coaching from Robert Saleh, defensive coordinator, with a really, really young defensive staff, with a young defensive roster. You're really seeing them put it together as the weeks go on because they've been so young and they don't have Fred Warner, they don't have Nick Bosa. You're just seeing them sort of scrape by and get some impactful, like, single play performances. So I think this is just a really incredible testament to their coaching and Christian McCaffrey, who is having a career year.
JP, Christian McCaffrey is also carrying quite literally one of my fantasy teams.
I was thinking of that.
On his
whooped me with Christian McCaffrey this week.
Entire shoulder. I think I only got 2 or 3 wins, but it has all been because of him. So Mac Jones, as we discussed, under center. We talked about him, his timing, and he's in for Brock Purdy as Purdy deals with that toe injury. And Kyle Shanahan was asked this week if he's worried about any chemistry with this offense if there is a quarterback change down the line, and here's what he had to say.
No, I don't really get concerned too much with offensive chemistry. I mean, it's more, Mac's showing he can play at a high level. Everyone knows that Brock can play at a high level. When Brock is healthy and he's himself, we know he'll play at a high level. So as long as you have a quarterback playing at a high level, don't worry too much about the chemistry.
JP, I want you to put your coaching hat on. So if you're in Shanahan's situation, what would you do if Brock Purdy is healthy? Do you just ride with Mac Jones if they're finding success, or do you go back to your starter?
If Brock Purdy is healthy, Brock Purdy is a starting quarterback. I think Mac Jones has done an admirable job filling in for Brock Purdy while he's given the time to get fully healthy. But what Brock Purdy brings instead of Mac Jones and what he brings to the offense is a little bit more explosiveness. He brings a scrambling ability that I think Kyle Shanahan sort of leans on, especially without having their full complement of receivers. So I think when Brock Purdy gets back, Brock Purdy is going to be the starter. But you have to give a lot of credit to Mac Jones, who has really gutted out a lot of gritty performances.
There is about 265 million reasons why Brock Purdy will be the starting quarterback when he is cleared and healthy for the San Francisco 49ers. You invested a king's ransom into him this offseason to be your franchise cornerstone. And so if your franchise cornerstone is healthy, he is going to be under center. To me, what I think is fascinating is the Mac Jones perspective, what it means in the offseason. Remember, this is not a guy like Sam Darnold last year or Daniel Jones this year who signed a 1-year deal and then is going into free agency. He signed a 2-year deal with the San Francisco 49ers. He's played himself into the conversation for somebody to be a starting quarterback. It's not going to be the San Francisco 49ers, but I'm curious to see what the 49ers do with Mac Jones this offseason because, again, he has played extremely well under duress for Kyle Shanahan when Brock Purdy has been sidelined. Now does another team want to come in and make Mac Jones their starter, and that should only help the San Francisco 49ers get a decent return for him if they decide to move off him, or they have one of the best backups in the NFL. So to me, that is what's interesting. Not so much what happens when Brock Purdy returns, but what happens to Mac Jones in the offseason.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of quarterbacks, to your point, really have that resurgence in their career. So excited to see what happens there for Mac Jones. Matt Stafford, JP, you mentioned it, playing at an MVP level, and he's 37 years old, was dealing with that back issue in the offseason, really didn't practice much, and we were worried about the chemistry between him and his receivers. What's that going to look like? He's plus 550 to win MVP. Tyler, how impressed are you with his performance and what he's been able to do up until this point?
Well, first of all, it's a lesson in don't believe everything you hear over the summer, because I was so concerned about the Los Angeles Rams because we're talking about Matthew Stafford getting injections into his back, and is he going to be even able to play this season? And now we're fast forward to the midway point and the dude's an MVP candidate. It's absolutely crazy, but it's warranted. You see what he has been able to do this season. He leads the NFL with 21 passing touchdowns. It's already surpassing what he was able to do touchdown-wise last season. season, and he is on a stretch right now over the last 5 games where he has 16 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. You see right there at the bottom of the screen. The only other guy that's done it is Aaron Rodgers, who won MVP back in 2021. So to me, it is not only he's put himself in an MVP conversation, we know that he's having arguably a career year across the board, but this is now a team, and JP talked about it earlier in the segment, he is playing so well that this team has a Super Bowl ceiling. It does feel like the team from a few years ago that ultimately won the Super Bowl. It has been a wild addition in terms of improvement with Devontae Adams opposite of Puka Nacua. Matthew Stafford seems to have gone up a level. This defense is playing well. So you have the MVP caliber quarterback, and the sky's the limit for the Rams because of Stafford.
Whatever they did in that immortal chamber that went around and was viral with Matthew Stafford in the offseason, whatever they did in there worked, because Matthew Stafford looks like he's playing like he's 31 instead of 37. The high-level arm strength, he's doing no-look passes over the middle of the field that are just signature vintage Matthew Stafford stuff. But I think where the Rams have really sort of aligned with Stafford is they're getting bigger. They use 13 personnel a lot more, and that's sort of something that came about when Puka Nacua got hurt. But like Tyler said, this team has an identity. They have a quarterback that can win them games, and that's going to take them really far. It's taken them far, and it's taken them really far in the past, like you said, with that Super Bowl winning team with Matthew Stafford. But this year, it feels like Matthew Stafford is playing at such a high level, and the biggest thing that was really concerning with the back injury stuff was the arm strength. Is his arm strength going to still be there? And that looked like it hasn't even gone down a bit this season. So it's a really incredible testament to Stafford and Sean McVay and designing that offense around a quarterback with his strengths right now.
Come on, Matthew Stafford, share your Fountain of Youth secrets with all of us. We would love to know. It is game prediction time, gentlemen. Niners, 3.5, 4.5 point dogs, depending on where you're looking. So, JP, give us a pick.
I think the Rams win here, but I do think it's going to be incredibly close. None of these games between the Rams and 49ers are ever really blowouts. I think Kyle Shanahan does a great job designing offense, but like we said, Matthew Stafford, they have the pass rush. I think they're going to be too much.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think the Rams win this game, but I do think the 49ers cover, whether it's 3.5 or 4.5. I'd like to take them with the points there because, again, as you said, JP, it always seems to come down to a field goal or a one possession in these type of divisional games. So, like the Rams overall, I think they're the more complete team right now, and they're obviously the more healthy team. But somehow, some way, Kyle Shanahan and company will keep it close.
Come on, let's get overtime again. We all want to see it as football fans, right? Tyler, JP, we certainly appreciate it. Previewing Rams-Niners. Again, 4:05 Eastern time on CBS. Excuse me, that is Cardinals-Seahawks on Sunday. And then 4:25 Eastern, Rams and the Niners for all the NFC West teams that are in action for Week 10.